Welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television, and thank you for joining us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. By Friday, January the 21st, more than 346 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 were on global records, with a death toll of over 5.5 million. In Nigeria, there were more than 251 million confirmed cases, and deaths have climbed to 3,124. The global vaccination count is over 9.7 billion, and in Nigeria, 10.3% of those 18 and above have got a first dose, while 4.6% are fully vaccinated. Now, the term malnutrition describes deficiencies or excesses in nutrient intake, imbalances of essential nutrients, or impaired nutrient utilization. According to the World Health Organization, 1.9 billion adults are overweight or obese, while 462 million are underweight. In 2020, 194 million children under the age of 5 were either too short for their age or too thin for their height, while 38.9 million were overweight or obese. These conditions make for economic, social, and medical impact on society. My guest is the family physician, Dr. Safia Ujo, who joins us from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the show, Dr. Ujo. Can you first explain to us what are these imbalances, excesses, and deficiencies?
Thank you for the question. Malnutrition is actually a global problem. It occurs in both developed and developing countries. In some communities, there is double burden of malnutrition, in which you have some people obese and some people underweight or suffering from undernutrition. Malnutrition largely can be defined as when you're taking excessive nutrients that your body requires, or inadequate intake of nutrients. So it's a global problem, and there are signs and symptoms of malnutrition. So, and we can actually, it depends on where you're trying to explain it from. You can be deficient in macronutrients or micronutrients. Generally, when you talk about malnutrition, you start by saying, okay, is it overnutrition or undernutrition? Overnutrition is said to occur when there is excessive nutrient intake. That's more than more than the requirement of that body. Whereby undernutrition, we said, is when you have deficient intake of nutrients. Overnutrition is more in developed countries where food is in surplus, whereby undernutrition sometimes being used synonymously with malnutrition anyway. Undernutrition is more in developing countries due to low income, poor maternal mother education about what to feed the children with, especially when we're talking about a pediatric population. And there are children that will come down with either micronutrient deficiency or macronutrient deficiency, or both. So when we talk about protein energy malnutrition, we are trying to focus more on protein and energy deficiency. That is, when we're talking about pediatric population now, they are lacking both protein and calories, and sometimes in addition to vitamins and proteins. And
okay, doctor, let's break it down. Let's make it a bit simpler. Are there no calories in proteins? You say proteins and calories. Are there no calories in proteins?
Yes, there are calories in carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And it's said that 1 gram of fat is broken down to about 9 calories. 1 gram of protein and carbohydrate is broken down to about 4 calories. So, but generally, when you're talking about malnutrition, what we emphasize more in this area is undernutrition, in which you know that, okay, that's the most prevalent compared to overnutrition. So most foods have calories. So when they are deficient in any of the either carbohydrate, protein, vitamin, you say, okay, protein energy malnutrition. But sometimes, how you diagnose it, children come with different symptoms and signs that will let you know which of the nutrients is the child deficient from.
Okay, so we have,
for example, when you talk about
children who are too,
okay,
children who are too thin for their height, for example. What's that child suffering from?
Yes, there are children who are too thin for their height. You know, when talking about malnutrition, there is acute malnutrition and chronic malnutrition.
Okay.
So in acute malnutrition, they lose weight, they are thin for their height. But in stunted growth, whereby you have chronic malnutrition, you notice that a child of 10 years old is having a height of 5 years old child. That's what we call stunting in chronic malnutrition. So it actually depends on what type you're talking about. Because mostly in acute malnutrition, the child loses weight. So the weight for age is reduced. But in chronic malnutrition, it's an ongoing thing for a while. So such children, you may notice that they are too short for their age.
Can all these problems be reversed? Can you get the person back to normal? Or is there a point where you can't return back to normal?
No, you can actually get the person, the child, we're talking about child now, back to normal by doing the right thing. For example, when we're in the hospital setting, when we take a look at a child, okay, from all indication, a child is malnourished. We want to know, okay, how do we manage this child? There are a lot of things we need to put into consideration because such children also come with infections. Some come with electrolyte imbalances. So all this has to be put into consideration when managing a child with malnutrition, especially in severe cases. So you need to start feeding the child. Feeding is very important. You're not going to overload the child once with a large amount of food. You're going to start gradually and start increasing over time. While you're also trying to check for infections in this child, because when there is malnutrition, infection rate increases because of low immunity. So a good diet, nutrients are needed to boost the body's immune system. So there are a lot of things you're going to correct in this child. Feeding is number one, is very, very important. You need to start feeding the child with nutrients. Food that consists of protein, carbohydrate, minerals, and vitamins. At the same time, most of them are dehydrated. So you have to rehydrate them properly. You have to, in fact, treat electrolyte imbalances. Like some of them might have been suffering from diarrhea diseases at home. They might have lost a lot of electrolytes, water. So treatment has to be encompassing. You have to put everything into consideration while trying to manage a malnourished or a child suffering from undernutrition. Okay,
it said that malnutrition can affect cognitive abilities. How does this manifest? Yes. Does it mean the person is failing exams? What are these cognitive abilities?
Yes, a child that is malnourished won't be able to think well, remember things easily, and they'll have even a poor educational performance. So those things that's part of the impairment in cognitive function, because malnutrition has a lot. When a child is malnourished, the brain development too is affected, especially malnutrition in the early years of life has a very, very negative effect on the cognitive function of a child. So it affects the child both mentally and physically. So such children has to be well evaluated, and all the right management has to be in place to make sure this child recovers.
Okay, so that's exactly what I'm asking about. When there's impaired brain function, and maybe the brain hasn't developed the way it ought to, and malnutrition has gone on for a long period of time, can you make a dull child brilliant by treating that malnutrition? Are there some things that won't come back?
Yes, some things may actually recover depending on the severity of the malnutrition. So it depends on how severe, how much damage it has caused to the brain. Individuals differ. Some may recover better than others.
Okay, so now, what makes it difficult for a child? This child is eating well. Maybe he's even getting all the nutrients he's supposed to get. But his body is not taking them in. Because one of the definitions of malnutrition is that the body has a problem utilizing the nutrients that are given to it. What could be the cause of that?
Yes, there are medical conditions that could cause that, like malabsorption syndrome, in which there is a medical problem. This child cannot absorb this nutrient into the body. But most commonly, malnutrition is as a result of lack of intake. These children are not even getting the adequate nutrients they should get from food, which will likely due to maybe poverty or lack of education, mother's education about what kind of feeds the child or the kind of food the child should get. Because a lot of mothers don't even know what to give, even if they have the money. So I think adequate knowledge will go a long way to also prevent malnutrition. If you can educate the mothers, most of them that come down with malnutrition, there's always a history of inadequate intake. Yes, malabsorption could be a risk factor. Even other infections too could make a child become malnourished because there will be decreased intake, loss of appetite. A child is too weak. There is this excessive weakness. So it could also affect the whole process of even taking the food in.
We see a paradox, in our climb. Some poor people classify them as poor, but some of them are obese. How does that happen?
Yes, when we're talking about obesity, there are many factors that can make someone to be obese. For example, some people have the genetic tendency. Okay. So such people, even without eating much, they could actually be on the big overweight or obese. Then there are environmental factors. There are people that became obese from environmental, what they eat. When they are eating unhealthy diet, they could actually become obese. But there is a genetic factor and there's an environmental factor when talking about obesity. So that's why you can find some people that are not really eating. You see them looking very big.
Okay, so it seems as if in Nigeria and, our own climb, this area of the world, we are catching up with obesity. We are catching up to more enlightened, more open societies, more informed societies. What are we going to do about it? What can we do to tackle this problem? Because obesity comes with its own set of after effects and its own set of impacts as undernourishment. Where are we getting it wrong? Why are we increasing in obesity in this part of the world?
Yes, there's increased obesity, and there are factors that have contributed to that. Bad diet. A lot of people eat junk, they take in fatty meals, so they increase over time. And at the end of the day, they don't even do exercise. So this has a lot of negative effects. For now, we now found children with type 2 obesity from bad diet, unhealthy diet. You find a child of 15 years coming down with type 2 diabetes, which is not okay. So
can we take a short break? Let's take a short break. When we come back from the break, we'll continue with this line of thought. Please stay with us as we go on a break. We'll be back after now. Welcome back. This is Health Matters on Channels Television, and we're talking about the challenge we have with malnutrition, either overnutrition or undernutrition. And we're speaking with Dr. Safia Ojo. You can call if you have any questions on the topic. The number to call is 0805-468-3514. It's going to show on your screen. You can also tweet at CTV_Mary A. Dr. Ojo, you were talking about obesity and some of the factors that contribute to obesity and why it's increasing in our climate. And you were mentioning eating junk. What do you classify as junk?
Junks are unhealthy. They are unhealthy diets mainly. You know, a lot of people now, especially in developed countries, even in Nigeria, in developing countries too, junks are meals that are really, they are unhealthy. They are not good for our health. So people believe when you have money, you should take whatever you want to eat, whatever you can afford. Those things have a lot of negative role to play in our healthy living. It's really causes a lot of problems. Some of those junk foods have a lot of fats, which is not too good for us. Some of them contains cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, known as the LDL cholesterol, which also affects the heart. So junks generally are unhealthy diets that and they have a very negative role to play. So these are the things people now take more in our society today, and you notice they keep getting increasing in weight daily, and to worsen the whole situation, they don't do exercise. Ideally, an adult should do exercise at least 5 times in a week of at least 30 minutes to an hour. So after eating unhealthy diet and you go to lie down, you go to your office, you're not walking around, at the end of the day, you start gathering the weight. So the obesity is now a major problem we know in both developed and developing countries. So people should go back and eat healthy meals. You take your normal protein diet, beans, eggs, sometimes eggs, yes, milk. You take your carbohydrate in a particular quantity. For example, if you have a plate of food, half of it should be vegetables and fruits. 1/4 should be carbohydrate, and the other 1/4 should be protein. So
Okay.
I think we need to.
I think we're getting a call. Sorry to cut in. We're getting a call from Ola, I believe. Hello, Ola. What's your question?
Good afternoon, ma. God bless you, ma.
Good afternoon. What's your question, sir?
I want to ask. I have a boy like that. I think he's how do you call it?
Malnourished.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go on.
So when he was 1 year and 6 months, I noticed something from his body. Only the leg. He will just be scratching the leg. We have used many antibiotics, and the thing refused to go. And when I look at the stature of the boy, he's not well grown, and we are giving him and his brother the same food, and the brother was growing. I want to help me and ask doctor, what can I do?
We'll put that to the doctor. Dr. Ojo, it's over to you.
The boy is not, okay.
That he's being fed the same as his brother.
Okay, but he's not growing. The height is not like his brother, right?
That's correct.
There are several factors that can cause this. Genetic tendency. We talked about environmental factor when you're talking about weight or height. Now, if you know you're giving adequate food and the child is not still growing well, if the child is not sick, I don't think there's nothing to really worry about, because there are genetic tendency when you're talking about height, weight. But check this child. If there are symptoms that seems the child is not really feeling well or healthy, you should seek medical attention so that some investigations can be carried out and proper diagnosis can be made.
Thank you so much. So, doctor, let's just say, a regular human being, you're walking down the road, you want to eat lunch, you enter an eatery or a restaurant or something, and you order food. How do you know what fat is in there, what salt, what sugar, what anything is in there? Do we just go ahead and cook our food? How do we police our diet?
I think the best thing is to cook your food, because nobody will tell you this is what we use in making the food. For example, even the oil people use in making stew in restaurants, people just use any oil. And such oils are very high in cholesterol, which has an effect on the heart. So the best thing is try and cook your meal at home, because you know what you're using. You are not expecting people that are cooking for commercial purposes to start using the healthy items or the healthy food, ingredients to make their food. So you can't be too sure of what they are using because you're not there when they were making the food. So the advice is try as much as possible to cook your food. It's safer and at least it's healthier. It's even cheaper.
Okay, when we think of micronutrients, we're thinking of fish, we're thinking of iodine, vitamin A, iron, carrots, vegetables. Now, here's my question. Some people are of the school of thought that if you eat well, you'll be fine. But others say you need supplements. Do we have enough in our natural food, our natural diet, to carry us, or should we be taking supplements?
Yes, we have a lot in our natural diet if we can take them. Micronutrients are actually food required in some amounts in the body, in some quantity, unlike macronutrients in which is needed in larger quantity compared to the macronutrients. The micronutrients are, you could have them as vitamins or minerals, whereby macronutrients are carbohydrate, protein, fats. So if you eat your healthy diet, you take a lot of veggies, you take fruits with your carb and protein and some fat, I think you should be able to get these micronutrients naturally instead of trying to start buying those ones in a therapeutic form.
Okay, let's take this phone call. Hello. Is that Ola again?
Hello.
Hello. What's your question?
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yes, I want the doctor to tell us just a few examples of those kind of food that is categorized as junk.
Okay. So, doctor, over to you. What kind of food? We want examples of food classified as junk. Real examples. Soft drinks.
Okay. There are some kind of food that you classify as junks. Like there's some of this pie they make. A lot of all these fried foods and in form of a pastry, some of them are actually junks. So you need to, a lot of, they are all unhealthy. It depends on what they are being made up of, the constituents. So a lot of them are called junks generally.
Poverty is a problem that sometimes cannot be helped. Everybody is not going to be rich. Now, can a poor person live a healthy life in spite of his social status? Can he get a diet rich enough?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Poverty, yes, we know. When you're talking about nutrition generally, we know poverty has a negative role when a family wants to eat healthy. But there are things we can do to help ourselves, even if you are not rich. Normal planting of vegetables at your backyard is important, like fruits around you. You could have a small farmland where you could actually plant some of those healthy meals you need. Like carrot, vegetables, and all that, because you get a lot of vitamins, minerals from such diet. So you mustn't be rich to actually live healthy. For example, when we're talking about like garden egg is very cheap. I don't think you can finish 200 naira garden egg once. And this is a very good source of vitamin. So there are things we can do to help ourselves. Vegetable, the spinach, we know, is very cheap. When you get 300 naira spinach, you can't even finish it. So these are things that are very rich, they're nutritious, and they are cheap to get. So it's not all the time that you must spend a large money to get.
Thank you so much. I love those examples. I think I'm going to the market right after this. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thanks for coming to the show, Dr. Uju. And thank you.
You're
at
welcome.
Home who is watching.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching, and thank you for calling in. Have a great day. Let's do it again next week. I'm Mary Alale Yusuf.